the Director of Communications for the National Council of Canadian Muslims. Today, we're here in relation to the motion that has been put forward to censure MPP Sarah Jama. This motion has been supported by the Government of Ontario and the Ontario Liberal Party. As a nonpartisan advocacy organization, we do not have any particular concern with any member being censured in the abstract. However, in the current context, we feel strongly that this discussion in the House today has real-life implications on the tenor of what we are seeing around us. I want to start by saying, I know so many of us are hurting right now. So many of our Jewish brothers and sisters in Canada are affected by the violence against civilians. Our hearts go out to them. We have also seen so many Ontario Muslim community members lose loved ones in this conflict. Civilians who have had nothing to do with the horrific attacks. In London alone, which is suffering because of the trial of the London terror attacker that is happening this week, I could fill a bus with community members who have lost family members. One member of the community there has lost 50 family members. 50. There are also many Canadians, including those from Ontario, who are trapped in Gaza right now. What are we supposed to tell them? What are we supposed to tell over 1 million Muslim and Palestinian and Arab community members across Ontario in relation to the discussion that's happening today at Queen's Park? And what are we supposed to tell them that despite MPP Jama clearly condemning Hamas, because MPP Jama, even after clarifying her statements, made it clear she stands against violence inflicted on all civilians? How are we supposed to tell them that both our government and the Ontario Liberal Party want to censure her? We cannot use this horrific conflict where so much pain and trauma is being felt by everyone to score political points. That is because we have seen that rhetoric escalates and communities are made to bear the brunt of the backlash. It has real life consequences. In Chicago, we already saw a 6-year-old child murdered by a landlord screaming anti-Palestinian slurs while stabbing him. In London, Ontario, we saw apartments with large Muslims flooded with graffiti that said, "Kill all Muslims." In Markham, we saw a public library try to cancel an Islamic Heritage Month event because of backlash, admitting this morning that they were wrong to do so. Just this week, and as I was coming to this press conference, we received words of multiple hijab-wearing Muslim women being spat on in the streets of Ontario and across the country. Today, all members in the House, your words have consequences. Let's use words that bring people together and words that do not drive people apart. We have an ongoing relationship with the Ford government, and we therefore look forward to positively engaging to see if there is a way that we can continue to collaborate to help everyone through this very difficult time. Lastly, I want to note that 300 organizations representing almost every Muslim organization and group in Ontario signed an open letter last night after the Al-Ahli Anglican Hospital was bombed in Gaza. The letter called for all elected officials to use their platform right now to call for peace. And I ask that everybody do so. Thank you.
So the tweet that Sarah Jama posted that a lot of people had a problem with, she pinned that tweet. Like, it's still there, and yes, it's a thread with the other stuff below it with the apology, but she's now pinned, put at the top of her page, the very thing that caused hurt for people. What's your response to that?
I think, as I said, she clarified her statements. She came out very clearly, and I think what she's saying is standing against violence and civilian death on all sides. And I think that's a very clear statement. And from our perspective, in the perspective of the Muslim community, that is exactly what our leaders should be doing. Should be calling for a ceasefire, should be calling for peace, and condemning heinous acts of violence that we've seen.
One of the issues here today, though, is that last week the NDP leader asked her to retract that statement, but she left it up. And now she's pinned it, which highlights it, and the NDP leader is no longer asking her to take it down. So some people are taking offense to that. Do you not see that as a provocative move?
I'm not here to speak about what the NDP has done, and we're here to represent our community. And from the perspective of our community, what Sarah Jama has done and what she said about this conflict in condemning all of the violence that is currently happening, we don't see a problem with it. We feel like our elected leaders should be showing that type of leadership.
The other motion that's being considered that the government put forward is condemning Hamas and standing behind Israel. The NDP had wanted to add something more to mention, for example, the humanitarian situation in Gaza. How do you feel that, that it is only that one side that's mentioned in that one?
Yeah, well, again, I don't want to speak for the NDP. From our perspective, and we've been very clear from the very beginning that we condemned Hamas and the senseless violence that took place. But the violence that is happening now, the bombing of a hospital and killing over 500 people in a single airstrike, is completely unacceptable. And we are calling for all levels of government, and in this case particularly the provincial government, to condemn that act. That's something that we mentioned in a statement last night, that we would like them to condemn that act and to call for a ceasefire and for Israel to stop the indiscriminate bombing that is happening, and with over 1,000 children being killed. It's totally unacceptable.
What do you think should happen with that motion to support Israel's right to defend itself and condemn Hamas?
I think across the board, with this motion, with others, we are asking for clarity and for the government to stand in line with international law, which so many human rights, the UN, so many different organizations have done so, and we're very clear in our statements that we are waiting for the provincial government, other levels of government to do exactly that. And I'll just take one more. Yeah.
This is did you want it?
No.
Just such a horrific, sad situation, and so many are suffering. Does everyone need to take a deep breath and stop? Because it feels like there are generations of pain here, centuries of pain and history. Do all politicians just need to take a full-on stop and breathe and take care of all constituents?
I think what's happening right now in Gaza, what we're hearing from our community, as I mentioned, I've been on the phone constantly for the last few days with Palestinian Canadians who have lost members of their family. I think the government and leaders, our elected leaders, need to be doing more to stop the violence.
Instead
And
of concentrating on this one tweet?
and instead of concentrating and wasting effort and time on this one tweet, and besides the situation in Gaza, here at home, we at NCCM have received an increase of 1,000% in terms of the incidents of Islamophobia that have been reported to us
In the last 10 days?
in the last 10 days. Yes.
I'm wondering what members of your community feel the impact of the debate at Queen's Park has on them. Does it impact their ability, the feeling whether they can be who they are or speak freely? Do what the politicians say and hear, do they hear it, and how does it affect them? in
It
their
absolutely
lives?
affects them. It absolutely affects them, the statements that are coming out from different levels of government, from school boards, from colleges and universities, administrations. All of those words have consequences, and the consequences are what we are seeing at NCCM with children, hijab-wearing Muslim women being on the front and bearing the brunt of those that type of rhetoric. So absolutely, it's something that needs to be addressed because the temperature, the atmosphere, the environment is untenable right now, and that's what we're seeing, and hearing from our community. And I'll leave it at that.
You mentioned the 1,000%, and I'm not sure if you have the actual numbers or if that's something you could get later.
Yeah.
Normally you have X amount of complaints, now you've got this.
Yeah, no, I can definitely share the numbers with you. It's just so overwhelming. The amount of, if I check my phone right now, I'd literally see multiple notifications about new incidents that have happened somewhere in Ontario or across the country. So it's something that we're definitely trying to tabulate right now, but right now we're focused on supporting those people who are, the victims of such abuse or violence or whatever it is. So that's our focus right now.
Okay, thanks. Could you give us your name again and spell it?
So my name is Uthman Quick, Uthman. Last name is Quick, Quick. And I'm the Director of Communications.